Ah, tools. Handyman's secret weapon. And this is a game bit. These are screwdrivers. And I'm going to use all of this for this disgusting pile. Buddy of mine from work gave me this Super Nintendo to fix up for him. Said it stopped working. Black screen. A little rattle in it. And it is yellowed and decayed. A lot of corrosion and rust. Not good. Look at that. That is chunky. It is a Super Nintendo control deck. Everything seems to feel right. Sticky a little bit. And you can see the old color right underneath that reset button. The controller he gave me, buttons feel good. I mean, it's original, but we've got some spots here that look like yeah, I don't know if I'm going to trust this controller. Well, hopefully we can make the old one look like mine. It's still a little yellowed, but you know, that's what you're going to get with these. The bottoms always tend to stay very yellowed, but alright, let's start tearing into this guy and see what we get. Here we go. Screws are tight in there, so that's a good sign. It means it hasn't been opened up. Yeah. That one's just as tight. I'm not quite sure where this was stored at, but let's take a look and see if there's any. There's a little bit of oxidation on the heads of these screws. Those leftover screws that got stuck in there out. Let's take a look at the inside of this guy. And that's not good. So this is what the color of the original plastic should be. But we've got a couple little dust bunnies in here, it looks like. The board looks alright. Get this last screw out. And like I said, a few little dust stragglers. Not quite sure where this was stored before, but it's pretty filthy inside. And let's start taking her apart. Underneath the shielding, the board looks pretty solid. I don't see any corrosion on the main board. This controller port, the ribbon feels right, but it just, something doesn't seem right with it. And here we've had our first break. That little plastic leg came off. Back of the board looks good. I don't see any corrosion, but I'm going to reflow some of the connectors on that. Get everything separated out. All the metal pieces, I see there's enough little plastic chunks that hopefully we'll be able to salvage this back. I don't know where I'm going to find a replacement one. And now disassemble the top. Like most of these, the inside plastic seems pretty good. Yeah, the switches are going to be a little bit more of a difficult tackle. As you can see underneath these covers, the original color is there. I really wish I could get this to the bright white, and I don't think that's going to happen. Take all this stuff and set it to the side, get it ready for cleaning. And here I got everything set up, bucket of soapy water. I'm just going to use a toothbrush to go over this stuff, try to get the dirt and grime out of the in-betweens of the textured plastic. Try not to use a magic eraser too much. I will eventually, but for these smaller pieces I just submerge, wipe and clean, and pretty sure that these switches are not going to be coming back to that original purple. Once I have all of these little pieces cleaned up, I can move on to the big chassis. I'm trying to hit this with the toothbrush to get in between there. It just wasn't doing it. So I kind of had to resort to a magic eraser towards the end. The magic erasers are nice cheat devices that get through there, but you got to be careful not to rub too hard on that textured plastic. It'll actually sand it down to nothing, and you don't want it smooth. You want a little bit of texture to it. So I'll do a quick wipe with it, and then I'll come back over with the scrubby side just to make sure that I can get the dirt and grime out of there. The scrubby side does a really good job of that without damaging the plastic. It almost acts kind of like a toothbrush or a little wire brush. This plastic just needs a quick wipe down. There wasn't a whole lot on it, so the eject button definitely needed a cleaning. This bottom piece. Like I said, I'm not sure where this was stored at. The inside looks pretty caked. Almost like it might have been in a barn or storage unit for an extended amount of time. And now I've got them all rinsed off. Bring them back and let them dry on the rag. And sit like this for a little bit, and then I'll move on to the main boards. I'm not going to show the retrobreading process on this. If you need to know how to do that, there are plenty of videos on YouTube. I want to make sure that they're good and dry. There's no leftover water before I go. Even though I'm wiping this, like I said, I'm going to let this sit for a couple hours before I do anything else with it. And now we're going to move on to the electronics. So what I'm going to do with this guy here is take some isopropyl alcohol and clean the contacts on here. They don't look like they need to be sanded down or filed or anything like that. They look like they're in good shape, they just need a good cleaning. So I'll come in with the toothbrush and hit all the spots that look a little oxidized. And do the same thing with everything else on the board. This controller board assembly looks kind of suspect. Ultimately, I'm just going to replace this controller port altogether. And then like this contact switch, I'm going to go ahead and just clean it and see if it works. Otherwise I'll come back and get some contact solution. Pretty sure the switch feels nice. It didn't seem like it was binding for that. And after the retrobreading process, this is what I got for reset power buttons. Not fantastic, but far better than the bleached a little bit. Outside of that controller port looks pretty nice. I mean, there's still a little yellowing. And all the exterior plastic, it's just a shade off. Not quite back to the original, but enough where, looking at it from across the room, it's going to look like a really nice shelf piece. Stays on there. I'm going to call that a win. It looks nice. And all of these plastic pieces so far from the exterior look nice. Again, bottom section, I'm not going to get this any better than this. This is a lot better than it was. Not as yellow. It's still yellow, but it doesn't look like it's been sitting in the barn. The inside, the outside, that's the big thing at this point. And remember, the inside was protected from the sun. That looks a lot better. Real test. Here we are. You can still see where the difference is in the color, but holy night and day difference. Once the buttons are on there, it's gonna look like it matches the bottom. I mean, it's going to look a lot cleaner. It's going to look like a halfway decent Super Nintendo when it's all said and done. That ABS plastic, what they did is they put this fire retardant chemical that's in there, and what that does is react with the oxygen. Not even the sunlight, but reacts with the oxygen and will cause it to turn yellow. Anytime I do a retrobreading, I try to put a little extra in there. So I got this Star Wars figure, little Stormtrooper. It's not going to be minty white, but it looks a lot better than it did when I went in there. I'm not going to do a reassembly on screen. Just reassemble in reverse order of teardown. So I didn't test this unit before I put it back together, you know, even the board, or before I took it apart. I want to make sure that that power supply is going to be putting the right voltage out before I plug it in, because if there is something wrong with the power supply and it flakes out the board, I don't want to deal with that. So this is 13 volts DC center positive, or center negative. Metering it, I've got the right voltage coming in. So now we're going to move on to just plugging it into the system and see if we got some kind of power or life. Plugged in, and we've got a power light. So now it's just a matter of plugging this into a TV and verifying that it works. And I can pass it back on to my buddy at work. Thanks, Dan, again. This big shout out to Dan for letting me do this cleanup for him. Here's the system. As you can see, not too terribly bad. Let's go ahead and plug it in. I got Legend of Zelda here. We're going to test out. One thing that I have a problem with and I need to get sorted out, I have way too many things connected to this TV. So, I had a little bit of a hiccup. I thought I had the right AV cords in, and I ended up not. So, word to the wise, if you're going to try and do a video like this, make sure that you have all your stuff lined up and ready to go. Finally realized, hey, wait, I don't think I'm with the right AV cables. I unplugged them. Might be the right audio cables, which it turned out to be the right audio cables, but not the right video cable. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe when you get a chance.